I just got finished with listening to a few hours of news coverage of the recent killings of two innocent, harmless, black men, African-American men, Alton Sterling and Philandro Castile, in two different parts of America within a span of a few days. And right now I'm cycling throughout the entire country of Thailand, and time on the bike, listening to these news stories, gave me some serious time to just think about what is happening in this country that honestly right now I am ashamed to be a part of, when you see the amount of prejudice and racism and injustice that exists in 2016 in our country. And beyond the feeling of just absolute despair and sadness, and honestly just a sickening feeling within my body, hearing about the stories of white law enforcement cops looking at the color of someone's skin and deciding that life does not matter. That life is a potential threat, and even though there's a child in the back seat, or even if it's someone selling CDs in front of a convenience store with consent of the person who owns it, a friend of Alton Sterling, I think that this black man is a threat, even though that they've done absolutely nothing wrong in this situation, and their life just doesn't matter like mine, you know? Just to think about a white cop saying, I have a family, I have kids, if I were to be killed innocently doing nothing, that would ruin the lives of all the people that love me. That would ruin the potential for me to have positive experiences. But we have people in our world that look at the color of a human being's skin and say, no, I can't, they couldn't relate to me in that way. They're other. They don't matter. I'm gonna subdue them. I'm going to murder them because they pose a potential threat to me. A threat from what? It is a psychological, malfunction when these people look at the color of someone's skin and assume that they're going to be threatening and harm other individuals when there's no evidence of that. It's a sociopathic psychological malfunction. And in addition to feeling absolute sorrow and remorse for the lives of these couple individual African-American people who lost their lives because of racism, because of prejudice, I, as an educated, recent college graduate, logical, free-thinking human being, I'm first and foremost an animal rights activist. Not because I like animals more than people, because I believe that sentient beings, individuals, people who can build families and social structures and have, positive experiences, eating food and taking walks, which guess what? Is not unique to human beings. There's no logical way that you can argue that it is uniquely human to, for the reasons that we don't kill human beings. You cannot find any reasons why that does not pertain to animals. And the reason that I'm an animal rights activist and the reason that I am hurt so much today is because when you see human beings killing other humans and not being able to justify it other than racism, it is very hard for me to continue to have hope for the animal rights movement, for the animal liberation movement in my lifetime. Now, don't think that I've lost hope. I will never lose hope, because you can't lose hope. People in the civil rights movement, when African-American people were getting lynched and were, getting their offices and their spaces of work blown up by white supremacists and racists, it seemed pretty hard at that time for them to win. But what did they do? They organized, they radicalized, they had protests, nonviolent civil disobedience, in some cases probably violent civil disobedience, even though I never advocate for violence at all. What I'm saying is that in any social justice movement, there's a moment where you feel absolutely hopeless. And this is a moment right now, even though I know justice is the only solution and justice will prevail, and we will live in a world of animal liberation, human liberation, sentient being liberation. That is what it's ultimately about. We will live in that world someday. I just feel absolutely pained that in 2016, if a human being can kill another human being, where the fuck what the fuck are we gonna do about animal liberation? How can we possibly liberate these beings, which in terms of numbers, the reason that I'm an animal rights activist is because I'm just a sentient being activist. And when you look at the numbers, if you believe in statistics and you believe that sentient beings who have families and can feel physical pain and can experience future positive experiences in life and emotions, when you look at the numbers, there are 60 billion land animals that are killed every single year for human food consumption. Okay, and I'm not trying to peg one social justice movement over another. All I'm saying is that because as an educated, logical, rational activist, I want to eliminate the amount of pain and suffering and torture and abuse and injustice in our world, I choose to focus on animals because that's the largest number of sentient beings that are being oppressed. Okay, and that's why I'm also could call myself a Black Lives Matter activist and a women's rights activist and all of this different stuff. I'm all about it. I think it's great. But all I'm saying is that after this experience of, the world just as they should and activists freaking out at this injustice that exists in our world, it just pains me to think about the eyes of animals as all of this stuff is going on to them times a billion every single day, and nobody fucking talks about it. These are animals that aren't just being murdered, like in the case of Alton Sterling and Philandro Castile. These are beings that are born into slavery, that are anally electrocuted and confined and tortured and castrated without anesthetic and ripped away from their family and social structures every single day and murdered, and we're the patrons, human beings, not myself, because as a rational human rights, animal rights, sentient beings rights activist, I've abstained from the practice of abusing and murdering and enslaving animals. As if you're a Black Lives Matter activist and if you are pissed off at what's happening to African American people in our country due to white supremacy and racism, you better also be an animal rights activist, because there is nothing unique to humans that makes humans that we should protect human lives and not protect animal lives. There's no difference. The only difference is if you are a speciesist, similar to a racist, where you say, just because I'm human, not looking at any of the minute details, which are, let me explain, the reason that we believe in not killing and abusing and torturing human beings, it's not just because they're human. That would be a form of prejudice. That's like saying we can enslave African American people just because of the color of their skin. No, we broke it down and said, wait, they're human beings. I'm a human being. They can feel pain. I can feel pain. They can have emotions and create family structures, and they want to have a good life and create offspring. Wow, racism is really fucked up. Well, when you look at it from an animal rights perspective, it's the exact same thing. It is speciesist to say that we should only worry about human welfare, because at the end of the day, animals feel physical pain, they can create community structures, they can have positive future life experiences, they can express themselves emotionally. If you have a dog or a cat, you know this. Most of our farm animals have equivalent IQs to our dogs and cats, like pigs and cows. And also, intelligence doesn't matter. It's just as illegal to kill a baby human being as it is an adult human being, because we know they can grow and that they can feel physical pain and have emotions. It doesn't matter about intelligence. It matters that sentient beings in 2016 who don't deserve to die, which animals don't, because humans, we do not need to eat them, we do not need to raise them for food. It's an outdated system. Just as slavery at one point people justified, well, how are we going to build our civilization? How are we going to build our homes and buildings without slavery? At a certain point, it became, we did not need slavery, and we actually figured out it's really fucked up to do that, so we progressed, we evolved. We don't need to raise animals for food in 2016 as human beings. In fact, it's the cancer of the planet. It's killing our planet, it's killing our human bodies, it's the reason for cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis. It is a absolutely sociopathic, psychotic practice to raise animals for food and abuse them and torture them in 2016. And when I see instances like what has happened in Minneapolis and Louisiana, all I can say is we have such a massive hill to climb for animal rights and for just sentient being liberation when human beings are still killing other human beings. It's all disgusting. None is worse than any other. I think it's just as disgusting for white cops to kill black people as for potentially you to pay a store to give you a roast beef sandwich so that some probably migrant worker in a factory could slaughter that animal because they knew you were paying for it. It is all fucked up. It all needs to stop. And that's why I'm a Black Lives Matter activist. I'm a women's rights activist. I am an animal rights activist. Animal liberation, sentient beings' lives matter.